Everything you heard about saltwater tanks might just be a lie. Everyone says those tanks are expensive, complicated, and only the expert ones that can handle saltwater tanks. But what if I told you that those things are not 100% true? There are many things that were not true about saltwater tanks, and the saddest part is many people still believe it. You probably heard those words about saltwater tanks that I said before, and what if I told you that those things are myth? And in this video, allow me to bust some of the biggest myths that many people believe about saltwater tanks. And I have 10 of the most common myths about saltwater tanks that many people still believe till this day. Wanna know what those myths are? Welcome to Taj Mahal Aquatics, and let's debunk the biggest myth of saltwater tanks that many people still believe. Saltwater tanks are often viewed as the challenge mode in fish keeping. Kinda like challenge mode when you play a game, as many people view it as it's more difficult to keep than freshwater tanks. But here's the truth. Saltwater is not as elite as you think. It's just misunderstood. All of those myths might have come from unreliable source that has never been proven. Or it's an assumption that came from people that never kept a saltwater tank. And let me debunk these myths to show you the truth of saltwater tanks. The first one is the biggest myth that everyone believes about saltwater tanks, even till this day. And that is, saltwater tanks are way harder than freshwater tanks. This is not entirely true, and let me explain it to you. The difficulty of having a saltwater tank is actually not much different from a freshwater tank actually. However, it does cost a bit more labor and extra care routine than the freshwater tanks, and even more to measure in the water parameter also. It may sound intimidating to measure and maintain salinity, corals, calcium, magnesium, and it does sound more like a chemistry project than fish keeping. But once you understand it, it's not much of a different than a freshwater tank. So, who says that saltwater tanks are hard? It's not that hard. It's almost the same as keeping a freshwater setup. This one is also the biggest myth of saltwater tanks that prevent many people from trying it. Saltwater tanks are expensive. And while it's almost true, it's not 100% true. Let me explain. Yes, it can be expensive, in which it can drain your wallet. And in my previous videos about saltwater tanks, I mentioned that saltwater tanks can be more expensive than a freshwater tanks. But here's the good news. You can actually make the saltwater tank cheaper. In fact, you can make a saltwater setup that is as much as a freshwater setup. You can get used aquarium gears from someone who already have reef tanks. You can use a cheaper lights for your tanks, and even build your own aquarium spend. And it's not always about how much you spend, but how smart you plan. You can still make a cheap saltwater tank, and who needs a fortune to have a slice of ocean in the living room? And do you know one of the ways to make saltwater tank cheaper? Everyone believes that if you want to set up a saltwater tank, you gotta have a protein skimmer. As we see, many saltwater setups use protein skimmers in the filtration system. But what if I told you that you actually don't need one to set a saltwater tank? Yes, it is helpful to have in a saltwater tank, and we see many saltwater setups using protein skimmers. But protein skimmer is just an optional thing. You don't need one to set up a saltwater tank, and your tank will thrive without it. It does help you remove nutrients, undesirable compound, residue, and degradation products. But as long as you do your regular water change on a weekly basis and have a decent flow in your tank, your saltwater tank setup can still run perfectly without a protein skimmer. This is the most classic myth, not only in the saltwater community, but also freshwater community. Nano-sized aquariums are better for beginners. This is so wrong. And this is also the myth that many people believe when starting a freshwater tank also. Smaller tanks are way less forgiving with water parameters, as it swings faster than your mood on Monday morning. Smaller nano tank might look simple, until you realize that you spend more time maintaining the water parameter than enjoying the tank. And this is why many fish keepers would suggest you to start a saltwater tank with a medium-sized tank, like maybe 40 to 60 gallons, as it is more forgiving. So if you want a more forgiving setup to start your journey in the saltwater tank world, get a medium-sized tank. We love some flow in our tank, right? Flow in the saltwater tank is something we cannot skip. But does that mean more currents are better? Here's the thing. We do love flow, but that doesn't say you should overdo it. Too much flow can be a chaos. And not all corals tolerate strong currents. Some might prefer gentle flow, while others can handle some stronger flow. And don't even place the wave maker close to the coral, it can destroy your corals. So yes, we need current in saltwater tanks, but not too much, just enough. Whoever came out with this myth, they deserve a jail time for life. This is the myth that was not only believed by the freshwater tank keeper, but also the saltwater tank keeper. Fish only grow to the size of their tank. Many people believe this, even the reef tank keepers believe it. But my biggest question is, who taught you this? And let me make it clear once for all. Fish don't stop growing based on their tank size. They can still reach their full size. And if you keep them in a tank that's way too small, it could turn them to a stunned, unhealthy fish. So stop believing they stay small and get the right fish for your tank. Some people also assume that reef tank need some bright light because those corals need it. And we see some reef tank with some crazy bright lighting. But does a reef tank need a crazy bright lights? Not always. Yes, corals need lights. But too much, it's a sunburn for your corals. Too much lighting can cause light stress and even oxidative damage, or some reefer call it burning. So yes, we need the lights for corals to colorize and photosynthesize like freshwater aquascape plants. But just like the currents, not too much, just enough. And every coral has its light zone, so make sure you know the light zones before you place any corals in your tank. When there's a fish that has ick in a saltwater tank, many people assume that all they need is garlic, and many believe that garlic can cure ick. But is it true? No, it's a myth. Sorry, garlic fans. Yes, garlic does boost the appetite of your fish when they have ick, and in some cases, it can help deliver medications and maintain the health of the fish that has parasite like ick, but it doesn't cure the ick. And if you're dealing with ick, please do some proper treatment. So nope, garlic does not cure ick. It's a lie. Many people believe that having zero nitrate and phosphate sounds perfect. And while it does sound ideal to go for zero nitrates and phosphate in your tank, many reef tank keepers often find negative results. And actually, it's also a coral starvation. Why? Because some corals needs a bit of nutrients to survive. So instead of aiming for zero reading, try to balance the reading at a low level. Like keep the nitrates under 10 ppm and phosphate under 0.05. Low, but not zero. That way, you can still punch down nuisance algae without starving your coral. And to close things off, some people believe that UV sterilizer harm the tank's biology. I don't know how many people that believe this or whoever came up with this idea, but who says that saltwater tank cannot have UV sterilizer? You can still use UV sterilizer in your saltwater setup, and it's completely harmless for microorganisms and phytoplankton. Just use it correctly, and it will not harm your tank. So yes, you can use UV sterilizer in your saltwater setup if you want. Just make sure to use it properly. There you go, 10 myths of saltwater tank that scams many people. I don't know when people believe all of these myths, but one thing we know, all of this came from misinformation, and now you know the truth. So next time you hear somebody say something bad about saltwater tank, just let them know that what they believe is a lie. And that's the end of this video. And what myth about saltwater tank did you used to believe? Let me know in the comment section below, and give this video a thumbs up if you like this video, and share this video to your friends to tell them all these saltwater tank myths are a scam. Subscribe this channel if you want to see more fun fish content, as there will be more stuff in the future. Thanks for watching my aquatic friends, and have a wonderful aquatic life. See you next time.